A very good evening to you and welcome to Breaking Today. My name is Frederick Muitiriri. My sign language interpreter tonight is Michael Maithia. Now let us get right into it. Jubilee Party of Kenya will not be fielding any candidate in the Msambweni constituency by-elections. However, Deputy President William Ruto has said he was of view that the party should have fielded a candidate. Speaking during a visit to Jubilee Party headquarters, the Deputy President, who was accompanied by Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju, whom they have been at loggerheads, Ruto has said he was informed in advance about the move by Tuju and will support the party position, but will be open to support an independent candidate. Earlier on, Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju had announced that after internal consultations, the party had decided not to field any candidate, saying the decision was reached after Monday's move by the Chief Justice advising the President to dissolve the Parliament. In his views, Tuju says the country has serious constitutional matters to deal with that requires reaching out across the political divide. That story we are following up and we'll be bringing it in a short while. Now, moving on. The Council of Governors has cautioned against the dissolution of Parliament. In a statement, COG Chair has said that while the Council understands Maraga's rationale behind the call for dissolution, it would have dire consequences on government processes, especially now that the country is in the midst of managing a pandemic. Meanwhile, women leaders want the President to disband the Parliament, failing to enact the two-thirds gender rule. Clifford Dombe tells us more.
And I have summoned
the unclear Article 27, Section 8 of the Constitution on the implementation of the two-thirds gender rule is continuing to elicit sharp reactions among top leaders of the country. Women leaders ganging up against calls for the matter to be included in the proposed BBI referendum.
I support the Parliamentary Service Commission. I support the move to go to court for further interpretations. We must have that further interpretation clearly before we rush on the issue of dissolution. Mr. Speaker, I want to suggest that these are the kind of issues that are ideal to be considered in a referendum when you are amending the Constitution, and especially when we understand from the Honorable, His Excellency, the President and the Prime Minister, that the BBI report is about to be released. That would be a good occasion to consider the depth of these matters. If you were to take that advice now, Mr. Speaker, we'll plunge into a deeper constitutional crisis. Therefore,
we cannot then say it will be done in the BBI when it should be done. Why was it not done within the provisions of the law, within the stipulated time frame as well? So I think BBI are not even options we want to discuss now. We're discussing a constitutional matter here.
Currently, the 12th Parliament is constituted of 47 elected women members of Parliament, while 12 are nominated, and as by law, 10 years after the promulgation of the Constitution, if the two-thirds gender rule is not achieved, then Parliament should be disbanded, a move that some MPs view could cause a constitutional crisis, but some women blame the quorum hitch for being the stumbling block to achieving this.
However, as you all know, the implementation of the Constitution with regards to the two-thirds gender rule has been faced by many challenges. FIDA has actively been involved in the constitutional process to enhance women's leadership and rule.
And as pressure continues to mount on the President to disband Parliament, the Federation for Women Lawyers staged demonstrations in Nairobi, terming the constitution of the bicameral Parliament as unconstitutional.
Kenyan women who have been disadvantaged in representation fought for gender parity and equality.
Wakati huu wanapokwenda kotini ni kama kutukejeli, ni kama kufanya kina mama hatuna haki.
The ball is now on the President's court to either adhere to the Constitution or throw the CJ under the bus before 21 days of the advisory lapses. Clifford Ndubi, Switch TV.
And out of that particular story, I ask you this question. If Parliament is dissolved today, would you re-elect your area MP? If Parliament is dissolved today, Would you re-elect your area MP? Talk to me on 111 444 111. That is 111 444 111. Just to remind you, we are live on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube as Switch TV Kenya. Now, moving on. Kenyans have expressed mixed reactions after Chief Justice David Maraga advised President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament for failing to enact two-third gender rule. Our reporter Wellington Ojwang was on the streets of Nairobi to sample some of your reaction, and this is what some of you had to say.
Chief Justice David Maraga on Monday asked President Uhuru Kenyatta to dissolve Parliament over the continued violation of the gender representation rule, saying failure to enact a law amounts to an act of impunity. Kenya's 2010 constitution states that no more than two-thirds of any elected or appointed body can be of the same gender. Women hold 22% of seats in the country's National Assembly and 31% in the Senate. The Green Movement Party, who have long campaigned for the legislation, have said the move by the Chief Justice was a significant step in the fight for fairer gender representation in the politics.
There is no option. It's the dissolution of Parliament and they must go home. And we are giving the President the notice for 21 days to actually dissolve the Parliament, or else we will equally have another statement.
Tunakuomba kwa heshima na taadhima, Rais wetu mpendwa, uweze kuchukua hatua hiyo ya kuvunja bunge kuanzia siku ya leo. Tunakupa siku 21. Kwa nini uvunje bunge? Ni kwa sababu thuluthi mbili jinsia mama haijaweza kutimia.
On the contrary, Kenyans are of different opinion on whether the parliament should be dissolved or not.
We have to respect the constitution. If it means we have to go and have a by-election and have parliamentarians come back, be voted back, so let it be.
The CJ is just doing his job according to the constitution. And if it means going for a by-election, I think we really need to do according to the constitution.
Maraga hata kijaribu kuingilia mambo ya kuvunjwa kwa bunge, hii serikali hatuna tumaini naye.
The president shouldn't go ahead to dissolve the parliament because it brings some kind of, there will be some lacuna, there will be some void if the president goes ahead to dissolve the parliament.
Vile Maraga alikuwa amesema ivunjwe. Kama bunge imekataa kupitisha sheria na ziko kwenye constitution, ile two-thirds gender ya wamama, ivunje watu waende nyumbani. Hakuna maneno ingine.
I think it is the right thing to do.
With the heated debate on whether the president should dissolve the parliament after the advisory by the Chief Justice David Maraga, clearly Kenyans are of different opinion. Reporting for Switch TV, I'm Wellington Ojwang.
Now let us go to Migori County, where Migori County Assembly proceedings was this morning disrupted by chaos following the reinstatement of the former Deputy Speaker George Omamba. Omamba was impeached by his colleagues May last year, together with Assembly Clerk Tom Opere, with Bukira East MCA Matthews Chacha and Emmanuel Abala taking over in acting capacity amid court orders. Emmanuel Terrell with more.
Scaffolds, melee, chaos amongst the MCAs. Business here was not the usual one. Today, trouble started as 5 pro-Obado MCAs walked into the house, which was in session, and tried to disrupt the session as Omamba was still on the chair. The 5 MCAs were hiding in one of the offices in the assembly, controlled by Obado's relative, before they made their way into the assembly and started creating chaos. MCAs allied to Governor Okoth Obado and against the ODM-sponsored impeachment has been brewing in the assembly from Tuesday, forcing MCAs to hold a kamukunji over simmering internal fight revolving around the legality of the assembly leadership. A female MCA was injured in the melee and rushed to the hospital. Emmanuel Terrer, Switch TV.
Drama after drama. Thank you, Emmanuel. Now, the government will deal ruthlessly with politicians inciting Kenyans, regardless of their political affiliation. Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibisho has warned. Speaking in Kisii, where he assessed the county's preparedness to host this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations, the PS decried careless talk could generate hate, saying they were indicators that if unattended, they could cause mayhem in the country. Andrew Okero reports.
According to Kibecho, the protocols will spell the red lines towards inflammatory public utterances and the illegal gangs, among others. He urged local leaders to desist from protecting criminal elements by bailing them out of police nets and instead cooperate with the national government to curb criminal activities.
A criminal is a criminal. And please, good people, allow the Ministry of the Interior, allow the National Police Service, allow the security agencies to deal with the criminals for who they are.
The PS called for an intensified campaign on drug abuse and illicit brews to eradicate the menace, adding that past efforts on the same were wanting. He said many more development activities will be witnessed in the county in the coming days in readiness for the national event.
Both in the infrastructure, in the water sector, in health, in education, we have heard you. And we are going to deliver this message as ACE, so that that implementation committee captures those projects for follow-up, for monitoring and evaluation.
Ending like the airport,
Kisii Governor James Ongwae applauded President Kenyatta for reconsidering to host the next National Mashujaa celebration in the county after COVID-19 spark halted the planned Madaraka Day last June.
That needs to be finalized very quickly. There are a few roads that I'll be able to mention that they felt that national government needed to help us, but in broad.
Ongwae commended the national government for the development projects in the county, and petitioned the president to intervene on the Suneka airstrip, whose completion has dragged for months. Andrew Kero, Switch TV.
Now to Machakos, where Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua has told of ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi to stop copying his ideas. Speaking in Machakos town, Mutua said the ANC leader has formed a habit of reproducing his ideas and those of Maendeleo Chapchap Party, terming him as an old and bankrupt in ideas. Take a look.
Kwanza nataka kumwambia Mheshimiwa Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. Musalia Mudavadi, stop copying me. Please get your own ideas. When I was announcing my candidature that I'm running for president, I said clearly that Kenya needs a safe pair of hands. A few days later, nikaona unasema Kenya needs a safe pair of hands. Copying me. Tafuta idea zako. Mimi nilirecord video ya Sheng, ya vijana, nikiwaambia kuhusu ya kwamba tukae rada. Tuache kupangwa na hii mikakati ya ukabila. Juzi nikasema wakifunga tutafungua. Nikaongea Sheng. Juzi niliona hata yeye anajaribu kuongea Sheng vibaya sana. Tunafaa kuchorea usoro zingine ati tunakopiana hata maformula. Si ndio? Ndio, bogi zingine zinakopi mpaka ideas. Hiyo si vako. Si vako, haidai tu. Si ndio? Ukijitambua pia ukamna ideas zako, lakini zangu chorea.
Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua. All right, earlier on I asked you, if Parliament is dissolved today, would you re-elect your area MP? Talk to me on 111, 444, 111, some of your SMSs. Iman James, we still don't have medicine to cure corona, so schools should be open next year. All right, son of Wamboi, yes, I will still re-elect my Ebo MP, Kanini Kega. He has really transformed the area. Talk to me on 111, 444, 111. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. A short break, we'll be back with more. All right, welcome back. Some of your feedback coming in. Karen Omar is asking me why I laughed, and I should explain in pictures why I laughed during that story about Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua. Kiongozi Paul Bet, kama kawaida, dawa iko, tuko pamoja. Boniface Rashford Kerema, nayo Nakuru Bahati Maili 9, Ahero, watching live. Sana Wamboi, tipping point, tunadai Governor Machakos utulete. All right, moving on. Kirinyaga County Government has today handed over road maintenance machinery to Mwea Irrigation Scheme Management for 1 month, which will see major roads in the irrigation scheme maintained. This initiative comes after a week where she and Waiguru had met all elected MCAs to deliberate on the way forward following deplorable state of roads in the county that have largely inconvenienced rice farmers who use them to ferry their produce to the market.
Today was a follow-up meeting where NIB, which is a national government institution that had requested to collaborate with the county government on the equipment, together with the Water Users Association from Mwea, who manage the rice growing areas, the farmers, and our members of the county assembly, led by the majority leader, came to agree on the work program starting in Mwea. So we've agreed on many things, which they will tell you. And also we've agreed on generally how we will be collaborating both from other government institutions such as NIB, the farmers, and the county assembly and the county executive in order to serve Kirinyaga people.
Now, on our continuous series about the deaf community now, they left home and they were separated from their families, but destiny brought them together and they found a silent love. Refugees Abdul Nestor and Elizabeth Agot are both deaf, and as the reporter Hadia Mwasiwa now reports, their union is extraordinary despite the challenges that come with their disability.
The impact of war is felt more not by the dead, but by those who are left behind, forced to flee their homes, separated from their families, and left with devastating memories of their losses. Abdul Nestor Kamonegusa from Burundi and Sudanese Elizabeth Agot's script is no different. Their situation and experience was made twice as hard by their hearing disability.
I came to Kenya when I was 7 years there and about, yeah. But the reason why my family left Sudan was because of war. It actually started in 1993, that war, yeah, so it took a long time. My mother died. My father also died.
But love prevails even in the most baffling situations. And for this too, it was magical and unpredictable, or what many would call it destiny.
I saw him and I loved him. That's it, yes. Yeah.
Drawn from different territories and speaking different languages, silence pulled them closer in a union that became extraordinary.
So we later on got married in Kakuma. And we had a house together. That's where we lived. So we couldn't stay in the house just like that. So I looked for a job in an NGO where we could teach deaf children, primary school children. Yeah. So we continued with work. Later on, we got to have our first baby, who is Ella. When we were putting on the rings, it was, whew, I was shaking because that was the first time, but I'm very grateful, I'm happy.
At first glance, you would think it's your ordinary family setting, but raising 3 youngsters and not being able to hear their voice, cry or laughter is a different cup of tea.
For example, when my children are arguing, I try to just tell them, no, I show them bad. Yes, and through maybe my small voice they can understand, and through reading my lips they can understand I'm saying bad. So at least they try to understand what I'm saying through that. And if they switch off the TV or they switch on the TV, I try to tell them, no, don't do that. So they learn how to read my lips.
At the age of 6, Ella's sign language skill is already a top notch as she helps her parents break the communication barrier in the surrounding environment as the family translator. Her younger sister, 4-year-old Anyer, is still learning how to communicate with her parents, while this young man is still far from the reality that awaits his future.
So while Ella was growing up, I think 1 year, when she was 1 year old, so she had a voice. But when other children saw her, they thought that because the parents are deaf, then she couldn't hear. So they used to say boo boo, boo boo, boo boo, and all that. Yeah, huyu ni boo boo. That's when she got to realize, oh, my father and my mother are both deaf.
Despite all the hurdles, they are a happy family, and in spite their love being silent, it is loud in their smiles and the warmth of their hearts. And as Abdon narrates, his family is his life inspiration.
Just coming home makes me feel at ease. Even when I have those stressful moments, I just come home and I feel okay.
Outside his home, the challenges are magnified. Using public transport, seeking services in hospitals, at school, or just doing grocery shopping from a community with minimal sign language literacy has been their biggest hindrance. Finding employment is a struggle for many, but twice as hard for the deaf community. Abdon says being deaf has limited him to numerous opportunities.
I knew how my business was. I know the kind of profit I get every day. But it seemed like this other deaf friend I had used to steal from me, so I had to sack him and do the work myself.
At his shop, Abdon can manage his customers, but only those who are patient enough to point, write or sign. Abdon's younger brother Frederick is always at his service whenever necessary.
A customer anaweza kuja na akianza kumuongelesha hajui kama ni deaf, kwa hiyo customers akakuwa na shida kidogo ya kuongea naye, anaweza amua akienda bila kubai chochote kinachomleta ile habari.
Creating awareness about the deaf community is a responsibility that lies in our hands and hearts. For instance, how do you politely get the attention of a deaf person before talking to them without appearing rude or ignorant? They say every day is a learning curve, and today these are the lessons we have learned from Elizabeth and Abdon's silent love story.
Elizabeth, it's a pleasure to meet you. May God bless you. Speaking with your